everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you could join us today. For those that are part of the community that are growing along with us, we appreciate you. Thank you for liking, thank you for sharing with your friends and family, but most importantly for subscribing to the channel. Today, I like to tell stories at times, and today I'm really going to tell a story. Towards the end of last year, I had a baby. I had a beautiful, beautiful baby. And I'm just going to talk about what the journey was like for me. So let's really not talk about what happened before, but that one day I go get tested and find out that I'm going to have a child. And then now, the jitters set in, you download all the pregnancy apps, you want to track how far along you are, what to expect in the coming months and things like that. Lucky for me, I didn't have any adverse reactions, like things like morning sickness, throwing up, I don't know, fevers and all those things that happen to normal people apparently. My appetite actually increased quite a bit up until maybe about 3 months, when I was 3 months pregnant, and then I started to fall sick. I get malaria. I had a continuous bout of malaria, and rather than gain weight in the first month, I instead lost weight. Well, finally, after a couple of changes in medication, the malaria is gone, and then now all you're focusing on is staying alive. But at that point, my appetite was gone, and I don't think it came from being pregnant. I think it just came from the sickness, and somehow I just adapted to the same. Fast forward, I get to the last couple of months, and then people of course start to tell me, oh Muriel, are you walking? You know, you need to exercise, you need to walk, that's the only way you'll be able to push, and things like that. So of course I start to panic. I was not the kind, like, even before I got pregnant, I wouldn't walk. Like, I would walk occasionally. Like, I'm not a generally unfit person, but I'm not that bad, like, when it comes to fitness. So for it to now be very, very emphasized during that period was just too much pressure for me. So sometimes I would try, like one Saturday, I would walk, maybe add a Sunday or things like that. And then one time I was scrolling through Twitter and I found a lady who wrote and said she did nothing and she still was able to have a Hebrew bath. That was my inspiration to stop. I stopped walking. I stopped putting myself under pressure to do these exercises that people claim would finally help you in having a normal delivery. Fast forward again to the day before I gave birth. I was actually 40 weeks at that time. I remember at 36 weeks, you start to expect that labor is going to come anytime. And the one question that I used to ask everyone that I would meet was, how do you know that now is the time? Like, how do you know that I'm in labor? And even my gynecologist told me, you'll just know. Like, no one can tell you what it's like, but when it comes, you'll know. So of course you live your life anticipating. Then of course, with the information on the internet, there are things like, oh, you'll get labor, you get contractions. The contractions they start to prepare your body for birth, and so you'll be having cramps and things like that. So of course I start to get the cramps, and then lucky for me, I worked till the last day. So the day before I gave birth, I actually went for a checkup, an antenatal checkup. And then, of course, they check how wide you are. They told me I was 2 centimeters. It moved my due date to about maybe 7 days from that date. So the guy tells me, go home. If by Monday you've not given birth, come back again, let's check. So that day I go back to work. I work all the way till the end, and then I go home. Then later about maybe 7 p.m. I leave home to go see someone in hospital. But when I get to hospital, I start to get I start to feel funny, like queasy. You just feel random. Yeah, the cramps are there. You've been having them, so you almost think it's normal. Then I called a friend of mine. And said, "Can you imagine? This is how I'm feeling. Blah 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 blah." And then she says, Muriel, it might be false labor. You might go to hospital, and then you get there, and then you're told that it's false labor. Come back after a week. So you just keep monitoring. So I just ignore. But of course, the squishiness was there. Then I get back home. I even take a shower. I have a cup of tea. But I remember during the shower, my water broke. I just remember standing in the shower and realizing that this is water and this is water, but the two waters are different. Like what came from the shower and my water actually breaking were two different gushes of water. So I say, but they usually, like from what you've read, of course, things like when your water breaks, and lucky for me, the guy had told me that not everyone's water breaks, because I can imagine the pressure of waiting for your water to break. Like probably labor has started, and then there you are, and your water hasn't broken. So you're thinking, let me not go to hospital because my water hasn't broken. So my water breaks. I still finish the shower. I get dressed. I get into bed. Now, every time I lay down, I would get those bad, painful contractions. Then I call the guy and I say, I think it has come. He says, okay, go to hospital, get checked. Let them check how far along you are, and then get back to me. When I get to hospital, I was actually about maybe 6 centimeters wide. The goal is to get to about 9, 10 is good enough. So we get to hospital now. Of course, they get you out of your clothes into the hospital gown. They tell you to take tea, to take walks, to little did I know that within that process, they were actually preparing me for pain, guys. I think when they tell us to appreciate the fact that a mother gave birth to a child, like, yes, God decreed that we shall suffer in labor, but it's only up until that point that you actually fully understand the impact of those words or of that declaration. I don't think I can even, exactly like how you ask people and they tell you, no one can explain it to you, is exactly how I feel, or is exactly how I felt in that moment. But all I remember was screaming at the top of my voice, screaming like the world was coming to an end. I remember pleading that we just have a C-section, like I can't do this anymore, let's just. And then, like before the baby actually descends properly to prepare to get out, they usually tell you don't push. So the pain comes and your instinct in that moment is to push. But then they're telling you, no, don't push, just breathe. And breathing is painful. Even just is just too much pain. I remember feeling the pain coming all the way from down, all the way up to the top. And it would build, like as the contraction comes, you feel it build, you feel it come. You'd even count the seconds and then know, now it's gone. And then start counting down the minutes until the next contraction. Now the final ones of when the baby is almost about to come and they're about maybe a couple of seconds apart, those ones are the, like before you're even settling and saying, oh, that one is gone, another one is coming, the next one is already building, like you feel it coming. But all I can say is that I remember screaming. But I also remember being in a room, as in a shared room with a lady who was as silent as a graveyard. Like she was quiet. Like while I, on the other hand, was screaming my lungs off. My neighbor, who was also in labor, was as quiet as a pin. Like silence, radio silence. Like she was walking around normally. She was a normal person. And then me, I was telling the world that, by the way, I can't do this anymore. Like I asked for everything. I asked for an epidural. Anyway, finally, the baby comes. And yeah, somehow after that, your body now begins to readjust and things like that. And now you get into, or now you have a child. There's all these things to do. You need to breastfeed the child. You need to look after yourself, but you need to look after the child, and things like that. Your tummy contracting, your uterus contracting and going back into place and things like that. But there are things that happened, or that I encountered during my journey that just got me thinking that we needed to have this conversation around the same. And I think that that it's important that we all need to embrace and understand that pregnancy is different for everyone, or any journey. Like, it could be pregnancy, it could be anything else, but it's different for you. It's different for me. I remember that very many times when people met me when as a, I think for about maybe 4 months, I didn't tell quite a couple of people, and lucky for me, my tummy started to show when I was about 6 months. So imagine your tummy starts to show, then people start to look at you. Are you pregnant? How far along are you? Like, that's the first question they're asking. How far along are you? Like, you ask me, then you do what? You start counting back the days. And I know this happens a lot for like newly wedded couples who get married. And then you find that people start asking, how far along is your pregnancy? To try and see if they can count backwards to whether you were pregnant before or after the wedding. Like, it's not your business when someone conceived. Just be happy that they're welcoming a new creation into the world. So that used to irritate me a lot, like having to tell everyone, oh, it's 6 months. Like, sometimes I'll just say, just wait, when the baby comes, we'll then count backwards. Then others would say, do you know the sex? Like, is it a boy or a girl? That also used to irritate me a lot, especially before I found out the sex of my child. But I remember that I think before I didn't want to know, but somehow people begin to put it in you that you need to know beforehand and things like that. And suddenly you start to feel the pressure of knowing, of wanting to know whether you're having either a boy or a girl. I think children should be celebrated, whether it's a boy or a girl. We should be happy for whatever sex our child is, and just be happy for who God has given you at that particular instance. Some of the other things that really bothered me are things like after I gave birth, everyone asks, oh, was it a normal birth? Like, what do you mean normal birth? Because apparently you didn't have a C-section, you had a normal delivery. I think C-section should be considered normal as well. It's delivery at the end of the day. Like, no matter what happens, I know that for very many women, there are women who say from the onset that their birth plan is to have a cesarean birth, and it's okay. Yeah, I know that there are women who prefer to push, but then they get there, and unfortunately, due to circumstances, maybe the baby gets tired or things like that, they have to resort to a C-section, not because they want to, but it happens. And then there are people who probably plan for cesarean, and before the date they've planned for, labor comes and they end up having to push the baby. And then there are those who go personally, and very many people tell you, especially my mom didn't expect me to push because I refused to walk. Like, those things of Semanya, drink pineapples, I don't know what, do this, do that, walk. No, anyway, let's discuss the walking, guys. People told me to walk, and I did not walk. And I got there, and yeah, the baby came out. It was a Hebrew birth. It wasn't like, there are so many things I could talk about, but just like I went in expecting that it could go either way. And I think it should be okay that whether you have, whether you give birth either by or without cesarean, that you should still be considered normal. You should still be considered as someone who has given birth to a child, and you shouldn't be stigmatized for it. But also, the length of labor is such a big deal. Oh my God, what? You were only labor for 3 hours. You're so lucky. What do you mean I'm so lucky? Do you know how much pain I went through within those 3 hours? Like, it was so bad that it probably felt like a lifetime. And then there are people who will say, I was in labor for 24 hours, or I was in labor for 3 days. Or for me, I know someone who said for her, she started, her labor pain started, she drove from home to hospital, and by the time she arrived at the hospital, like at the door, before they even put her in like get her out of her clothes and things like that, like that's probably a journey of half an hour. The baby was out. So everyone's story is different. Like my experience will be different, your experience will be different, but I don't think that we should stigmatize people or try to make them feel bad about what they've experienced, especially during that time. And then also, when I gave birth, I remember one of the biggest things that people used to focus a lot on that bothered me was breast milk. What? You don't have breast milk? Tai, put the baby on the breast. Put the baby on the breast. Like, there are those things that people just keep pumping into your head after you've given birth. Have you done this? Have you taken this? Are you being pressed? Like, and then you just get overwhelmed. Yeah? If you've done it before, it's okay. You've done it before. Good for you. But allow, especially first-time mothers, to experience these things. Like, yes, it's okay to listen to people, but how many of you can speak? And you as a mother, how many people can you allow to speak to you? What do you take in? What do you take out? Ultimately, I believe that every child is different. Every mother is different. What we experience, while for some it might cut across, for others it's different. You'll find mothers who will tell you, oh, my child does this, or when I gave my child this, my child reacted. I know that I had bought Boots products to use, like the soap, the lotion, shampoo, and things like that to use, and my child reacted badly, and I had to give them away. So it's different for everyone. Like my story, your story, they are all different. If you choose that whatever journey it is that you're walking on, remember that it starts with you. You have control of over what you choose to do. You have control over what you choose your journey to be like. And as long as you don't regret it, enjoy the journey, make it your own, embrace it, and let everything else just be noise. Ignore the noise and focus on you. Focus on being who you are. Focus on doing things that matter to you. Focus on doing things that you enjoy as a person, that make that journey worthwhile for yourself and for the human being that you're carrying. Thank you everyone for joining us today as we tell stories. I hope that we have picked something. I hope that we can be better people dealing with women who are pregnant and those that have given birth, that we can put ourselves in their shoes and imagine if we were the same people and how we would like to be treated, and let's treat those people that way. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, and share this channel with your friends and family, especially if this is a topic that speaks to someone. Share it with them. Ask them to like, ask them to share it as well. And remember that we are changing the world one story at a time. Until next time, bye.